For this presentation, I want to discuss how I see the ceramics field as it relates to the nomenclature of industry and the influence of industry in my own practice. When I first thought about this subject, I asked myself if our field would ever consider itself as an industry, and came to the conclusion that it actually could not. In the United States, I don't think ceramic artists and studio potters refer to, associate, or classify our field as an industry for a number of reasons. One is due to the fact that we are introduced to ceramics through our academic institutions and community art centers and are taught to think creatively and to make highly personalized, one-of-a-kind of works that are intended for a limited market. Another reason the field doesn't identify as being an industry is because it operates on a more grassroots level. Ceramics is a very communal field where individuals can come together to support a variety of causes and strive for change. As artists, we are always voicing our opinions and points of view. We have the opportunity to shape the culture of our own field. The growing ideologies of buying local and/or handmade embody the ideals that have an anti-industrial sentiment, which aligns with reducing waste and is better for our environments. It also allows the consumer to meet the maker and understand the author of the objects and their reasons for making and producing the work. Essentially, an artist's practice is more independent than someone who works in industry. We have the opportunity to control every creative aspect of our practice through the materials we use, the process we engage with, and by promoting the work through pop-up shops, craft shows, galleries, and social media. Often, in industry, there is a division of labor when creating a product for a market. This scenario allows for more people to be involved in order to make more products to reach and sell to a wider audience. This is tied to the goal of making more money through capitalism and consumerism. There are many European and Asian countries where artistic practices are born out of industry. For this presentation, I want to discuss my experience in China because it operates very differently and has close ties to industry. Porcelain is one of its largest exports and has been in continuous production for over 1,700 years. Ceramics is such a huge part of the economy, the airport is shaped like a giant ceramic vessel. When I visited China, it opened my eyes to the potential of how artists could work alongside and integrate objects produced by a factory in their practice. This process allowed them to streamline the work they made without giving up their artistic liberties. Working this way is possible in China because of the division of labor amongst the artisans and the ability to hire their services to aid in the production of your work. The methods used still require a craftsperson with a high level of skill and expertise in their area of production. Another interesting aspect of the ceramics industry in Jingdezhen is that they use a wide variety of methods. You can see techniques that incorporate state-of-the-art technology, industrialized methods alongside ancient techniques using handwork. Here we see a pot being carved on the left and the use of a 4-axis CNC mill on the right. With my own studio practice, I'm interested in making homemade, functional objects for occasional and everyday use. I create works that are meant to live out in the open in the home when not in use. This is inspired by the more formal environment of my mother's home growing up. China had a large influence on the work I made and how I think about my studio practice. After experiencing the integration of art in a factory setting, I gave myself a lot more permission to use methods that are associated with mass production, such as digital design, rapid prototyping, and slip casting. Oftentimes, I like to combine these techniques within the same work. I use this as a means to create one-of-a-kind objects that explore specific types of functions or works that have dual functions. In this piece, the large bowl was thrown on the potter's wheel and the surrounding dishes were slip cast. I like the fact that I can be a part of both worlds. In one aspect, the hand is still present within the work and the industrial methodologies are not relevant in the aesthetic of the objects I make. I am not saying they are not important conceptually to my practice, rather I don't suspect that one would look at the work and know certain components were designed on a computer. What I find fascinating about these processes is that they allow me to design and implement more complex objects that operate as a system. Design programs like Rhino allow me to do this by sketching out ideas, then producing the components through precision modeling, and then translating them into ceramic media. It allows me to think about display and how objects function through their presentation and orientation. This has prompted me to work with other types of materials like wood and to consider other types of objects like shelves that are associated to furniture. Another area where my practice is influenced by industry is through my fascination of mass-produced objects. I'm a huge fan of going to antique stores, flea markets, and collecting things that are part of our recent histories. I like to reinterpret aspects of these objects into my work. In this image, I'm translating the form of a basket and translating aspects of ornamentation into the glazed surface. Glassware is something that I collect a lot of. It has influenced me to consider the size and scale of the ceramic tumblers I make, and to use decals that are digitally designed and cut out on the vinyl plotter. Each one is applied individually by hand as they overlap around the form. The intention with my practice is to incorporate and combine all types of methods, whether they are associated to industry, mass production, or more analog techniques. I think when artists have the opportunity and accessibility to use these tools, it expands the repertoire of their practice. The work that we create as studio potters will still embody a one-of-a-kind spirit. Finally, I wanted to thank Artaxis for inviting me to participate in the Art Access conversation